So what we're showing here today is the ability to teach a class on Space Force using technology that we've made over the last year. Just to explain the setup is you have the instructor view on the left and you've got two students on the right. There's a third student that's represented with the Magic Leap that's not being broadcast up here. But as the instructor, I can see, as I'm teaching this class, I can see everybody who's connected into the simulation and what they're doing. And the capability that we provide is the ability to hold this class in this auditorium, but people don't have to be in the auditorium. They can be remote. They can be in Dallas. They can be in Florida. They can be anywhere they want to be if they log in on a PC, a Macintosh, their own AR device, their own VR device, or a tablet or phone that supports AR. As the instructor, I'll start with the satellite view. And what right now what you're seeing right here is the live view of all the satellites that NORAD publishes publicly. And they're updating in real time. What people are seeing now on their end user devices is the ability to like walk up and inspect the Earth and see the different rings of satellites. There's the low Earth orbit satellites that are really close to the Earth. Red are satellites, blue are rocket bodies, yellow are unknown dots. I call them the spy satellites because I don't know what they are. And then as you get farther and farther from the Earth, you'll see a big ring at 36,000 feet. There's the geosynchronous orbits of there's this huge ring around the Earth. It's really far out. That's called the outer ring. We can step through the class and move to our next section, and I can show you the Iridium Network, which is a fairly old satellite network that deals with telecommunications. It was also one of the Iridium satellites collided with another rocket body many years ago and caused a huge explosion and basically has covered the Earth in space junk. So being able to track satellites so that they know when they're going to collide, know when you have to make a maneuver so they don't collide. This is all done from NORAD. And so what we can show here is the ability to understand how these satellites are spatially located, and can we show a collision? Can we show a near collision? I'll go to the Starlink network, which is Elon Musk's network. You can see that he doesn't cover the poles. I'm really curious as to why. Is it just because people don't live there? Why did Iridium cover the poles, and why does his network not cover the poles, right? And so these are things that would lead on the next class would be like, hey, let's go figure out why. October 16th, almost 2 weeks ago, there was a near collision between a rocket body and a dead satellite. And these, I've highlighted the two orbits, and then I can rotate around. There was a near miss. I don't know exactly how close they got, but it was predicted that they would get within 25 meters. And so if you look at Antarctica, let me zoom in on my instructor view real quick. So as my instructor view, I can zoom in and see, I gotta go the other side. So you can see these two orbits came very, very close to each other, to the point where Twitter became alive. Everybody, there was a tiny bit of a blip of a news that barely made it past all the election stuff, but it was a big deal because if they were to collide, the Earth would then be covered in another mass of space junk, 4 centimeters, moving at 8,000 kilometers per second. So it's a big deal if these things collide. And we need to know, and we need to predict, and we need to be able to change their orbits and do things based upon knowing that they're going to collide. What this technology allows us to do is it also allows us to not only teach, but we can also use this in operation and or training. Think if you are involved in joint all-domain operations, you can start and look at this very large space view, and then as you get closer to the Earth, you can zoom in and do the air view, and then get to the ground view and ocean, and then even sub-ocean. This tool allows you to inspect and look at this data regardless of where you are on the Earth, or you can even do it in space. You just need an internet connection. The whole idea is that if you have a display device, PC, AR, VR display device, you can pick it up, join this briefing, and be a part of it, and interact and have voice, comms, video, and interact with all this content. And so what we do on the next exercise, the next class, would be the ability to walk up to any one of these satellites, touch it, inspect it, show the exact satellite if we had the 3D data of that satellite, and show it in real space, and show you how big it is, just so you know it's not just I mean, to us right now, it feels like a dot in space. We don't have an idea of how big it is. But the next step is to touch this satellite, make it show you in 3D in full space, so you see exactly how big it is. And that's our presentation.
Let me ask you, especially because I asked you please to talk about join all the main operations at JADC2. How hard is it for Dr. Riley, let's say, who is really one of the foremost experts on that? How hard would it be for Dr. Riley to be able to put something together which he can use in the classroom pretty quickly and give a familiarization for his students and then go deeper as need be?
It's not difficult at all. The logistics of getting the equipment, that's easy. The ability to show that content, that's all easy to do. The other thing that this platform does is allows the end user, Dr. Riley and his staff, to basically create these scenarios on the fly, create these lesson plans on the fly. We don't have to do that, right? That's something that's your content, and you want to teach it, and you know how to teach it the right way. We allow you to enter that content into the platform and then send those apps to the different devices, and then off you go.
So in order for his staff to be able to build something that would be beneficial for the classroom, it would take some equipment,
yep,
right? The right kind of computers, and then it would take the platform that you're talking about. But then he or anybody on his team could build a scenario,
yes,
and be able to teach that?
It would take a PC, it would take the platform, and then it would take an application built on top of the platform. So we would build the application to the point where we'd hand it off and say, this is how you're going to make lesson plans, and we could work together to streamline that user experience, and then hand it off, and then to let you guys just start making content.
Wow.
And then all that content is stored in the cloud, like AWS or GovCloud, or it can also be stored on premise. It doesn't have to go to the cloud. Like right now, we aren't touching the cloud whatsoever. We're all localized to like one PC. So we allow, for a network denied environment, where you have just one network that you could only use, then as long as it's Wi-Fi, we can use that.
Wow.
So, yeah, this is all unclassed right now. Moving forward, we can work to a situation where we can ingest classified information. Well, Overmatch is a brand new startup. We have nobody on staff that has clearance, so we'd have to work through the protocols. But it's definitely a place that we want to go. The database gives us the name, the NORAD number, altitude, speed, the orbit path can be calculated. From the NORAD number, then you're off to the races. You can go to Wikipedia and find like everything known to man about that satellite, right? But the NORAD number is the key link to then go outside and get everything. We were using two different websites. One, Stuff in Space, but they got the same data from, the name escapes me right now, but it's a publicly available database. So, and I think it has 19,000 entries.
So remember what I asked Jeff to do? In the beginning, I said that I gave him a document about space debris, and from that document about space debris, I said, Jeff, give me something that we can use in a lesson. And Jeff was able to put this together pretty quickly using publicly released data. Mm-hmm. Now, imagine your students, if you had a lesson about space debris or whatever, and they were able to do this and walk around and look and see and be able to almost touch the satellites or whatever, how much more that can do for them. So that's the big piece, and it could be used for so many different things. It doesn't matter I shouldn't say it doesn't matter what the lesson is, but this kind of augmented reality is just not limited to space kind of things. You can do other kinds of augmented reality events.
Right, yeah, it's not limited just to space, right? This is the platform, and the applications that go on it can be wide. Like we are tracking an application to do, force-on-force training, or to play golf together. Or even just throw a football back and forth with each other. Like the applications can be really wide, but in this context, teaching remotely and being able to have people feel like they're in here and have like you're here when you're remote. That's the big thing that this provides. I did not show the capability, but we have a capability to scan this entire area and at the point of need, and I can scan this in color and depth. And so if you were to log in remotely, you would come in and you would have an avatar presence, and you would be able to walk on stage. You would feel like you were here, not just some head floating in space.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I really appreciate you. Give him a hand, guys.